In these times of uncertainty, it's all the more important that we keep collaborating, informing, and inspiring each other, so that we can be smarter and better tomorrow. Welcome to the Pakhuis de Zwijger livecast.
So, a very warm welcome everyone. Welcome everyone who's sitting at home now through the livecast. In these times, I know these are strange times that you cannot connect and you have to do social distancing. And as you know, at Pakhuis de Zwijger, we are still trying to engage with important topics today. So that's why we're here. And I would love to give you a warm welcome on behalf of Pakhuis de Zwijger, but also Arales, which is a grassroots pan-decolonial network based in Amsterdam. I myself am Max de Ploeg. I will be together with Celine guiding you through this live stream today. And myself, I am an organizer at Pakhuis de Zwijger, also project leader of the Week Against Racism, and now together with Celine, leading this project of Indigenous Liberation, or more facilitating, I would say, rather than leading. Maybe Celine, you could introduce yourself.
Okay. Mari. Hi, I'm Celine, and thank you so much for being here. I want to say that I'm also Mapuche. That means that I am people of the earth. And today we are here to do a soft launch for the Indigenous Liberation Day. So thank you so much for being here. At home. We do the soft launch for 12 October, where we aim to transform and decolonize Columbus Day. So, because we think we should talk about liberation, and we should talk about decolonization from indigenous perspectives. Why? I think we all know that the earth is out of balance. The plants are disappearing, the animals are dying. In Chile, there used to be a lot of butterflies. Where are they now? So we should definitely be here, we should protect, and we should be gathering together in relation to Earth Day. So we are celebrating Earth Day for the past 50 years. 50
yeah.
Yeah, so we do not have another 50 years. We need to listen, and we need to act, and we need to be together, and we need to listen to indigenous peoples, I would say.
No, I definitely agree. And this is why we also started a process with a lot of, as you know, Amsterdam is a diverse city, so there's a lot of diaspora here as well. So together with indigenous diaspora, NGOs, scholars, we started a brainstorm process, which we will tell more later about of how this project came evolved. But today is really also, because it is a soft launch, also a celebration. So there will be speeches, music, and people giving comments, hip-hop in the end. So just enjoy, and we'll be guiding you through this journey. And I think for our first guest, to set the intention well, maybe you can introduce our very special first guest.
Thank you. I think it's an honor to present Olivia. Olivia is a personal friend of ours. She's also a mentor of Two Swans in Nature and Live to Dream platform. And she facilitates healing ceremonies. And she is Kalinia. That is an indigenous communities from Suriname. And she will open our evening through a ceremony in order to make sure that we speak and engage from the heart. And we are here together because of our love for the people, for the nature, for the animals, for the rivers, for the trees, and above all, for our love for life. So, Olivia, I see you. Hi, please, go ahead.
On the children in the east, the children in the south, the children in the west, the children in the north. I'm presenting the Arawak tribe, and part I have a Canadian blood. Enjoy our ceremony table, our ceremony space. Welcome in the circle connecting with the east, the south, the west, and the north. Connected with the element water, connected with all the oceans, rivers, and lakes. With our blood, amniotic fluid from our biological and spiritual mothers and Mother Earth. Wood connecting with all the forests, fire, earth, and metal. Connected with all the indigenous grandmothers and fathers from the four winds. In gratitude and celebrate life. Honoring and celebrating the earth by giving back in return. It's time now to giving back in return. Nothing is from us and nothing we can take with us. We came as pure souls to live on this planet in togetherness, and we are here to share our talents and to co-create. To complete and integrate with knowledge from the higher dimensions, not to serve betrayals. Be thankful for the source of life. We invite you in the light of honoring our spiritual mother, who nurtures us by giving food and a shelter, who let us grow to our higher selves by giving the lessons so we can travel with her to higher dimensions. In this time, when the darkest of the dimension of illusion collectively challenges us to let go, that is our collective lesson. Let go of the past. We are trapped by the past. Let go of fears, because that is where the darkness is hidden. Restore the connection with the cycle of life, with the family, nature, and the eternal source of the creative power. Shall we mourn our recent deaths in mass? Shall we immediately mourn our family past? Shall we immediately mourn our country or our continent history? Shall we mourn the pathogenic connections that humanity created and sustained in felling, burning, and cooking our friendly animals, trees, and plants, even their own species as humans? Shall we mourn the destructive abuse and rangy gluttony of the feminine energy? Shall we mourn the destructive and programmed weapon of war of male energy? It's all in the illusion. If all our tea is falling down, we can make the sixth ocean. So we can release our ancestors and ourselves from old conditioned patterns and dogmas, with the old pain and grief for was a victim. We will all just ask for forgiveness. It's time for us to forgive ourselves, to forgive each other, so the Great Spirit can forgive us and send us in a new time, in a new period of abundance and compassion. Let us unite in ceremony and prayers to ask forgiveness for ourselves and also for our ancestors, the choices we made in the past. In taking care of all species in equality in truth and respect. To all the mothers who dealt with violence and rape because of patriarchy, to all the fathers who dealt with killing in commission and by numbing their wounds, to all the children who have offered in rituals and bureaucracy and by losing it, To all the leaders who are misleading us in the past and in this reality because of claiming by white ego. To all of us who manipulate and intimidate by blood rituals. To all of us who became a blind follower because it was a program. To all of us to break down the curses because of the greed. To all of us to connect from lower frequencies because of the destructive technology. To all our relatives who have been betrayed, sacrificed, deceived by greed and manipulative power. To all our peers that we knowingly enslaved and saw as lesser creators because of our own blind spots and self-loathing, which we have legalized injustice done by law, have created a system to legally steal and take everything, have exhausted and raped the fertility of this great mother. Through blind greed, all her children had wanted to chain in order to achieve desperate ambitions. Let us release ourselves, and for ourselves and our ancestors. Let's make a wave of love, light, and then we will realize that there is a new reality. I want to thank in gratitude. Talk with love and compassion. We have to re-identify ourselves. We are not our study, bachelor degree, or profession. We are resources on this planet.
My name is Mamdiak. I come from Senegal, in northern Senegal, a place we call Douaira Wuranjak. And Douaira means a big village. And before the colonization, that's the name been given about Douaira Wuranjak. And at this moment, that place called Podor. And Podor is mean port of God. Is a place you have a lot of gold before. And I come in the family we called Gaulo people. My tribe, I'm Hal Pular. And Hal Pular people, they come from the north in Senegal. And in my family, where I come from, we are Gaulo and we sing Yela and we dance Yela. But true it is, since I was little, I love the sound of the drum. And since then, I've been connected. My instrument called the talking drum. And the talking drum can speak. And the talking drum can talk. And the ancestral way before the electricity doesn't exist. And we do able to create a drum, and the drum can able to communicate enter village. And I can able to speak with my talking. And this is what we call the talking drum. And the talking drum, what it does is to connect and to communicate. Isn't a story I want to share is about Mother Earth. And when we talk about Mother Earth, we do believe how that connect human being. And to be human being, the human being is a medicine, the human being is everything and connecting with the Mother Earth. And music, and we talk about music, music is everything about in this life. Music, I do believe, is medicine, and music is my medicine. When I do sing, I do believe I heal myself. And I can able to heal a humanity way, first of all, through myself. And to feel what I do sing in my heart and deep down in my heart. And to open to my heart to be able to reach myself and to be able to reach human being. You ain't aduna why Monday cham ni waaw dama ne su may doxantoo jeey ci àdduna yee ma ni man dina dox daal diggante garab yooyooy ndeysaan ñi yëngatoo yee woo ma. And here what I do sing is about nature and how we do connect with nature. Because humanity, we are nature. When we go through in the nature to hear the wind, through the trees moving, and that sound I do hear and I do feel in my heart is a healing, is a medicine. Ne fofu dal ñoom de ni ñu yaakaaran noone yoo may ni waaw suma doxantooje ci côté ndox ma waa ni daal xool ndox may rëy loolooy baay nu may dégloo vague yaay nu may yëngatoo waay ni looloy yegg sama biir xol bee waaw ni man de caam man de suma kontaanoo waay man de caam ni gëm naa ni musique bi lay mooy sama garab gi waaw kon boog Adama Njaay dama ne ubbil may sa xol bee waaw ni sa xol bee waaw moo di yow mi lee Music is medicine. When I feel good, I do listen to the music. When I don't feel sometimes not good, I do listen to the music. And music, I do believe, is medicine. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So you have listened to Mama Diak. First of all, I would like to thank again Olivia. Thank you so much for your presence and for your blessings. So Mama Diak has took us on a journey through a storytelling performance with music, in which he shared his knowledge about music being a form of medicine. Mama Diak is a musician, he's a storyteller, and he's also the founder of the Jela Foundation, where people are brought together through culture and music. And he was musically supported by Max. Thank you for that.
Appreciate it.
Are we going to Caesar?
Yes, we're going to Caesar.
Okay, well, I have again the honor of introducing Cesar. Cesar Tacuba, he's active on the solidarity campaigns for justice and peace in the Philippines. And he's a Cordillera elder. In Europe, he's active surrounding indigenous rights and culture, which he also does through the Mabika Foundation. Himself has been a political prisoner as his people have been forcibly displaced by corporations. So we are honored to have him, and he will be sharing with us, through Max, his hopes for the Indigenous Liberation Day and why it's so urgent today. So please listen to the words of this amazing elder. Thank you.
Yeah, so Cesar, we found it important to listen to the elders, and yeah, it was too difficult for Cesar. His computer was too old; it didn't have a camera, and we didn't want him to travel as well because that's putting people at risk. So that's why I'll be reading out his message or statement that he wanted to share with us today. So I'll start. Our soft launching of the Indigenous Liberation in the Netherlands reaffirms my Igorot and Cordillera roots and identity. It gives me much joy as it validates my long years of struggling with indigenous peoples in the Philippines, one of which is the world-famous but also victorious struggle of the people of the Cordillera against the World Bank, which financed Chico hydroelectric plants under conditions of brutal martial law and dictatorship. I, Cesar Tacuba, participated in the formulation of a program for indigenous people in the national democratic and revolutionary movement and struggle, which also has a socialist perspective. Through the years, I was involved in militant campaigns to arouse, organize, and mobilize indigenous people. This in order to demand solidarity and support of churches, academia, legislative bodies, and the UN system. The concept and practice of this project of indigenous liberation is more urgent today for the following reasons. First, the process of recolonization and plunder by monopoly capitalism is rapidly expanding into the indigenous lands and territory, poisoning rivers, threatening the land, the people, and causing the destruction of the environment. Also, the increasing global climate change crisis is now causing a growing recognition that indigenous people are the protector of nature and Mother Earth, and have always been so. Wars, civil conflict, state repression, commercialization, cultural misrepresentation, poverty, and pandemics, however, continue to pose grave threats to the survival of indigenous people. In facing the challenges of tomorrow, it is important to also celebrate, sum up, and build on our achievements as indigenous people and to carry on the struggle. Some victories have been the reasserting of our identities, culture, and the right to self-determination. Something that is gaining more and more local, national, and international respect and support. As an example, Pope Francis apologized for the grave sins of colonialism on behalf of the Catholic Church and called for the recognition of indigenous people. Also, the World Council of Churches now do recognize the role of indigenous peoples in protecting and sustaining, as they called it, the integrity of creation itself. Another victory that I want to mention is that through the efforts of indigenous and their allies, the United Nations Declaration of Rights of Indigenous People, the UNDRP, have included indigenous rights into their vision and the world's international agenda. Noteworthy is that mostly indigenous women took leadership in mass campaigns against corporate state and the development aggression, and participated in various regional, international organizations and institutions to make indigenous voices heard. Next, indigenous academics and their allies are conducting more and more studies on the indigenous history, culture, and identity, and the role they can play in combating climate change. Also, an outstanding achievement today is the increasing number of self-organizations of indigenous people that are engaged in militant mass movement for life, land, identity, cultural integrity, justice, and the right to self-determination, in which they also demand indigenous martyrs must be honored and remembered, and a source for inspiration and courage to carry on. I hope that Indigenous Liberation Day will be a movement of unity and encourage to struggle to rectify historical and existing systemic injustice and empowerment to articulate their dreams and work out a program of liberation and social emancipation. In the Netherlands, I hope that Indigenous people will continue to strengthen their organization and unity around a program of liberation, justice and empowerment, but also to link up with progressive groups and institutions mutually, because mutual solidarity based on the principle of respect and also in solidarity with the Global South is important. And the more initiate theoretical studies are done to further understand the historic, systemic, structural issues impacting Indigenous people and how Indigenous liberation theories and practice are and can be relevant to the current stage of the struggle on climate disasters. Brothers and sisters, let us keep us safe, healthy and strong to fight not only against the COVID-19, but also for the rights of the hundreds of thousands of people living worldwide today as Indigenous people who have also died in history through deadly diseases brought by colonizers. Let us look forward to the 12th of October as a day to enrich and love for our program of liberation. We wish the organizers to be filled with strength and joy as they prepare for our historic event on the 12th of October through a consultative and democratic and participatory process. That was Cesar.
Nice. I see some clappings. Super nice. Okay, so we're going to talk more about Indigenous Liberation Day, right?
Yes.
So then I need to click. Okay. On October the 12th, 1492, Christopher Columbus arrived on Turtle Island, Abiyala, bringing European settlers and conquerors into contact with indigenous peoples. A date that symbolized ruthless, genocidal colonization, which has lasted for more than 527 years and still goes on today.
Yeah, and I think what is important about the aspect of colonization, it has not only been physical, but also cultural. As you can see, all the different institutions were involved in oppression, both religious, the schooling systems, and there you can see a painting that represents that. It's called Manifest Destiny, where you also see the people are painted in the dark, which are deemed the savages, and then in the light comes innocence and progress with the trains, the cables, where we are today. And I think now that we see where it's boiling, we know we have to listen more. Yeah.
So, 370 million indigenous people worldwide. They live on 20% of the land, protecting about 80% of the biodiversity. For centuries, indigenous people have been fighting for survival, for the preservation and the recognition of identity, culture, land, and the right to self-determination. So, this is why it's time for decolonization.
Yes. So that was our opening story, and thank you so much also. We will tell now more about the process of what the project is about, who participated, and I want to thank all the contributions so far. And I hope it brought you in the journey and the relevance of what we're doing. So about the process behind me, you can see we didn't want to make a linear curve, so we just made a loop because we should put away with linear thinking as what we were thinking in the process. So basically, I see I'm in front of it. So we had meetings together with different groups, some of which you have heard already through the speeches. And Olivia was there also, and Rake and Shaline, who's going to be later on the show, but many more have been part of this community, which we gathered to say, okay, what should Indigenous liberation be about? And what could goals be for the festival? So that we put out an open call after we had set the framework and the title and the date, which we chose Christopher Columbus Day because that really marks the beginning of global colonization. And through the open call, we got in ideas from the different groups. So we'll be mostly facilitating what is already there and trying to strengthen it and connect people together through networks. And here's some pictures of the meetings, but you can also see events, as Pakhuis de Zwijger has already before this also been organizing surrounding issues of surrounding indigenous people, like the Nature's Narrative series. So this is like a next step, which I think is important for today. And these are the themes that came out of it. And we first want to maybe call it a decade of Indigenous liberation, and then we were like, a decade is maybe short. Maybe call it a century, because if you want to think sustainably and for the future, I think we should at least be talking in centuries and intergenerational passing of knowledge, also in terms of preserving cultures. I think, a decade is wouldn't be enough to be in balance. So, I think we will lead you to the 5 themes that came out of these sessions, some of which I will tell and some of which Celine will tell. So one of the themes was indigenous language, art, and culture, which are not only forms of communication, but also profound knowledge systems that have been there for thousands of years. So in that term, colonization is a very short period, actually, if you compare it to that. And I wanted to give you one example of a form in which the knowledge system could work or look like. So what you see behind me is the stars in Australia, and the First Nation people there, their knowledge is kept in the stars, basically. So that is their script. They don't have written language, it's in the stars. Their knowledge is kept there through the ancestors. And what they believe is when someone dies and you see a falling star, it's the one who passed away is rejoining with the ancestors in the stars. And one time, so there's the story that is from the Yolngu people. I wrote it down because indigenous people is not an identity per se. It's, so this is a story about an elder whose name was Wergna Mapernkirk. I'm sure I mispronounced this, but I am trying. And she was an elder who one time when there was, hundreds of years ago, when there was starvation, she went out to look for food because there was scarcity. And at some point she found larvae and inside a tree. And then she told the others, and they were very nutritious, and then that made them able to survive. So when she passed away, she flew to the stars, and she became one of the stars, and one of the stars is named after her. So then they know, and this particular star is only visible in a certain part of the season. So when the people see the stars up again, then they know, oh, we can collect the larvae again. So through that story, through the ancestry, that way in the stars, their social laws are written and scripted. And what is sad, this is one of the many possible beautiful stories and forms of knowledge that are out there. What is sad, if you look behind me, many languages are disappearing in the coming years. So the UN had the Year of Indigenous Languages just now in 2019. And of the 6,000 languages that we have worldwide, about half of them will disappear in the coming century if we don't do something. So I think this is important, and this is a legacy of colonization, as you see in the other map below. Behind me, many of the maps, if you look, are speaking colonial languages. We have much more diversity than 180 languages. We have 6,000 languages. So, yeah. And also, I think with the other team about knowledge and education, we need to know more about colonial history and and their perspectives to be included, and maybe change the way science is done. And I think we can learn about sustainability a lot. If you look, for instance, at one concept, which is of indigenous people in North America, you have the concept of 7 generations. So our normal time frame is usually, what are you going to be in 5 years or 10 years or 25 years? What's your policy in 4 years? There, the normal time frame is 7 generations. So that means, what do you want to make of the community? How do you treat the land in 7 generations' time? Because they know very well, if you don't treat the land with respect in 7 generations, or the 4th or the 5th, it might be gone, and they need to be there as well. So that is a different way of thinking we don't have here. And I think these are just a few examples. Also on gender, there's different systems that we can learn a lot from. And I think it would be a pity for humanity for ourselves. We deserve it to be there. And the last one is that I will be telling about is the indigenous rights and self-determination. I think Cesar gave many examples already, also in his speech, what the urgency is. So I'll keep it short, but basically you see in the reports that every week on a daily basis, basically indigenous people are killed for protecting their land. And in 2017, a Global Witness report said there were 207 environmental defenders killed for the land grabbing. And this is really an underestimate because these are the ones reported. So there's always a, there's a gap as well there. So I wanted to, this was also in Cesar's speech. This was the UN rights on UN, the Declaration of Indigenous Rights in the UN at 2007. This was brought up, and you can see it's very comprehensive as well, looking also at the cultural destruction. Yeah, so also worth looking at that as well. So I want to give the floor to you, Celine.
Thank you. So we have talked about a lot of things. So let me get my text. Intergenerational trauma. That's like, we all know this from the indigenous communities. So we have to acknowledge the damaging impacts of trauma on spiritual healing and health, while having great faith in healing spirits and resilience of our cultural, spiritual and ancient indigenous knowledge. So first of all, it's a healing process. We need to understand the historical trauma and the internalized oppression. So dekolonization leads to planting the seeds, feeding and nurturing with other ways of existing in this world, in the relations we have with the territory. So the first right to nature is related to the right to exist. So that's what I liked most talking with all indigenous during the meetings, because land is a concept related to the use of nature. So we don't use the word land, we use the word territory. Land is a concept, is an object for profits. So that's not the way we indigenous world see this. So let's talk about the buen vivir, because we have to talk about this. A lot of indigenous believe in the buen vivir. It's about reclaiming, it's about teaching, it's about respecting ourselves, our clans and our family, our systems and our communities, and how we are all related with all living things, with the nature, and our relationship with the spirits and protectors, with the ancestors. And here starts the healing. So it's a little bit related, of course, with the nature rights, regeneration, relation with nature, because let me see, giving Mother Earth constitutional rights to protect and to give space for the environment to regenerate, and for brain vivir, we're talking about this. This means that having healthy and fertile land and territory, to give an understanding of how we indigenous relate to our environment. The brain vivir is a radical departure from Western conceptions. It claims to be the sources that have been made invisible by modernity. Indigenous worlds and their knowledge need to be protected. They need not to be used. We need to guide them and we need to protect it. So some of you have been now familiarized with the brain vivir, and we as the Mapuche, we call it the kumam again. And this is the balance between the humans and their social, cultural, ecological, and the spiritual environments. And we think it's about giving back before you take. So therefore, the kumam again, it's also about the language you were talking about. It reminds us that there are other languages we have forgotten how to communicate with. The language of the earth beings, the Nyen, the rivers, the mountains, the plants, the air, the oceans, the sun, the moon, the stones, the volcano. For example, when you go to the river and you listen carefully to the sound of the river, you can actually hear your ancestors. We believe that. So brain vivir evokes community, it evokes healing, it invokes the regeneration of all life through spirituality and the connectedness of all beings. So these were the other themes.
It reminded me part of what you said about the Mapuche language, or Mapudungun, that I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but that it's Earth's language, that they gained the language by listening to the environment. Thank you. That was beautiful. I think we have some guests with us
We
as
have
well.
guests.
Very welcome guests. If we can go to both Raki Up and Shirley Sanchez. So Shirley Sanchez is a Kalinja from Suriname, and she works for Earth Charter and A Touch of Spirit. She's also on the board of Arales. And she has been also part of the process and here with us. And the same goes for Raki Up, but Raki Up then is part of Free West Papua campaign, a spokesperson there, where he works for justice there. And an all-over activist, you could say, also with the Week Against Racism that we have here, very involved, a lot of good spirit. So maybe before we add something, maybe you could tell something or add something about yourself as well, to what I just said.
Shirley first.
Yeah, let me first. Hi, everyone. My name is Shirley Sanchez. I'm 40 years old and founder of A Touch of Spirit events. I organize events for organizations who create a sustainable and social impact. I am Cariña, and we live on the northern part of South America. I also work for the Earth Charter since 2008, and Earth Charter is an ethical framework for a sustainable and peaceful world. And with my indigenous background and my involvement with the Earth Charter, I want to focus on making a deeper connection between the Earth Charter and the unique relationship indigenous have with the natural systems between earth and spirit.
Thank you. Raki?
Yes. So, good evening, everyone. My name is Raki, as Max pronounced earlier. So I am actually a freedom fighter, educating people in the Netherlands and across the world about what is happening in West Papua, which is also a former Dutch colony. And the storytelling campaign we are doing is about how it's possible that these kinds of important stories, shared historical stories, have been kept a secret for decades. And at the end, which has transformed me in a all-round activist, where the recent years I'm very active on climate change, because these stories are very relevant. As we heard in the presentation, the story of Sister Celine, it is the importance of indigenous peoples' ways of life, which have protected more than 80% of world's biodiversity stated by the United Nations panel on climate change, the UNIPCC. So this is a crucial perspective that I missed in climate change discussions here, but also in the political decision-making process as one of the clear solutions. We are the protectors of this valuable, crucial rainforest, which are an indigenous lands, the biggest in the Amazon in South America, but the third largest in, for example, in West Papua, the island of New Guinea. And why is this perspective not on the table, not on the TV, not on the educational schools? So this is something I love to add with storytelling campaign on indigenous issues.
This is also what you added and shared in your open call, right? To the contribution, the idea you proposed was also to have a political program about representation. Can you tell a little bit more about that and what you hope maybe this Indigenous Liberation project can bring to what you were sharing with us in your open call contribution?
Yes, absolutely, Max. I will zoom into that. My proposal is all about the indigenous perspective, and why I underline the vision of the Indigenous Liberation Day is that this perspective, the indigenous peoples, 5% of world's population, protected 80% of world's biodiversity, and at the same time, 97% of forest cutting, clearing happens on indigenous land at the same time. So when political parties, when environmental organizations and the broad climate change movements want to talk about climate change, they cannot longer ignore the solutions of the first clear solutions of a climate change solution, because it is indigenous rights. It is protecting the forest on indigenous land. It means stopping destructive industries on indigenous land. So why is it that indigenous people's perspective are not there sitting on the decision-making process? And this is something I want to point at, especially at the Dutch environmental organizations and political parties, that in this 10 years, the scientists are giving us to prevent irreversible destruction of ecosystems on the planet. We cannot lose time and fool ourselves by not pointing at the root causes. And it's about colonialism, capitalism, and racism against indigenous peoples on indigenous land. So we are the solution in this decade of restoration, as the UN is mentioning it. And they need us to sit on the table.
Wow, fire. Always.
Wow.
Thank you. Thank you. Wow.
Bless.
Charlene, do you have maybe something to share or add to what Raki is also saying?
Of course, he's 100% right. We are the solution. I think indigenous rights have been violated for hundreds of years now. There has already been so much damage. I think that the indigenous liberation will accelerate this new paradigm of decolonizing and healing the systems, where institutes includes indigenous perspectives. And about indigenous liberation, I think it's really important to change the narratives. And definitely, we should definitely start with decolonizing Columbus Day on October 12th. Let's change the story and tell the truth about the genocide and the spiritual hijacking. October 12th is not about discovering a new land. For all indigenous people, October 12th is all about the indigenous resistance and decolonization. I think it's really time now that we need to move away from the white Western supremacist value system that tells us whose knowledge is valuable and how it should be shared. We want to move towards one in which the complexity and diversity of knowledge is embraced and accounted for. We need to regenerate indigenous knowledge. I think that's really important to start with.
Thank you. And can you maybe tell, because you're also working with a touch of spirit, maybe besides knowledge, what is the spiritual dimension that can be added?
I think that with a touch of spirit, it's important that if you put spirit into anything, you change the energy. And I think that we should think about indigenization. I don't know if you know the word indigenization. Indigenization is just a process of naturalizing indigenous knowledge systems and making them evident to transform spaces, places, but also hearts. In context of post-secondary education, this involves bringing indigenous knowledge together with Western knowledge systems. So indigenous knowledge systems are embedded in relationship to specific lands, culture, and communities because they are diverse and complex. Indigenization will be a unique process for every post-secondary institution. And it's important to note that indigenization does not mean changing something Western into something indigenous. The goal is not to replace Western knowledge with indigenous knowledge. Rather, indigenization can be understood as weaving or braiding, appreciate both. The distinct knowledge system that learners can come to understand and appreciate both. And I think we need indigenization to decolonize our mind and our systems.
Thank you, Charlene. Thank you both. I think that has been a very powerful message of both the human right aspect, lack of representation, but also the need, the need to exchange knowledge, also in a spiritual way, to see it in an equal level. Indigenization. Yeah, thank you both for sharing these insights. I mean, after Corona, we're gonna see each other face to face again, I'm sure.
I just want to say one small thing, because I just wanted to, there was also a question that what is our expectations of the Indigenous Liberation. And I think, of course, our expectations are to decolonize our minds, integrate indigenous philosophy into Western science. But I think my dream has always been that we could have an indigenous knowledge and wisdom center in most of the capital cities all over the world. We should have an indigenous knowledge and wisdom center so we could preserve, archive all our wisdom, our medical information, astrological information, but also ecological, and where we can hold our ceremonies, where we can learn the youth to teach their language again, where we can save our cultural treasures. I think it's really important that we should preserve all the knowledge that the indigenous have right now, and therefore we need indigenous knowledge and wisdom centers all over the world.
Thank you, Charlene. That has been a very clear wish. So I hope for the people watching, if you have too much...
I can listen to this for hours.
Or if you're part of an institution, make sure to talk and connect to Charlene as well. Yeah. Maybe you want to close off with an image before we go to our next part.
Yeah, well, I was talking about Chilean butterflies who have been almost, almost gone. And I love the animal. I love it. I love the insect. So let's keep it and let's fly. I think when we are united with all the wisdom here, with all the joy and all the love for the life, I think we should definitely turn into butterflies.
Yes, and I guess speaking of butterflies, I can definitely say we have two very beautiful people with us, also from the younger generation, because if we talk about intergenerational exchanges, we need to involve the youth who are also often, give new inspiration or insights or way of doing things. And the both artists, Amberly and Amaru, are part of a hip-hop collective they self-co-founded, which is Connect the Dots movement. And they combine their indigenous roots also with hip-hop. So I would like to give a warm welcome to Amaru and Amberly.
Hello. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, hello everyone.
Hello everyone.
My name is Amberly.
My name is Amaru.
We are the founders of Connect the Dots movement. It is a foundation which stands for the revolution of the minds. So what we're trying to do is raising the global consciousness. What Indigenous Liberation means to us is Indigenous Liberation is bringing back and recovering the human rights, recovering the wisdom, the knowledge, the wisdom and spiritual knowledge haven't been passed down to the younger generation because there has been so much damage. So a lot of young people are trapped in a society and a system that they feel disconnected. They don't know where to go. They don't know what to do. And we think that that's because it's time for the recovery. It's time for liberation. It's time for us to
wake
up and reconnect with Mother Nature.
Yeah. One thing that we use is hip hop, because everybody knows the rapper Tupac. But a lot of people don't know how he gets his name, and that he's named after Tupac Amaru, the last high priest Inca that led up the revolution against the Spanish conquerors. And we were inspired by Tupac, the rapper, his message, but we didn't know about the fact that he get his name from an Inca leader. So when we discovered that, by following the breadcrumbs from the ancestors, we came out to our indigenous roots, and we find it, and we were connected to the Amaru clan.
Yes.
So that's why we're doing this.
And Amaru stands for connection. It stands for the connection to the Mother Earth, and it stands for being one tribe again. So being one community.
Yes, so thank you.
And that's what we're trying to bring into our music also. All right. Now we'll start with the song.
Let's go. In, lak, echt, la, kin. We are another you. So basically, we're all the same. Wake up. Mother Nature is calling. 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 Stand up, everybody. Mother Nature is calling. Stand up, everybody. Yes, it's a fact. Medicine woman's and medicine man's reincarnated in flesh. Ancestors back, they're coming back. Yes, it's a fact. Medicine woman's and medicine man's reincarnated in flesh. Ancestors back, they're coming back. Our people broken down by colonization.
Columbus a hero.
It was an invasion that came and raped us.
They came and slaved us.
That came and framed us.
They came with fake love.
But now is the time to fight for indigenous rights. Worldwide, one tribe. So now is the time to fight for indigenous rights. Worldwide, one tribe.
Respect is a must. We have conquered enough with the power of love.
We're doing it.
Healing and trust, connecting the dots. Indigenous roots
awakening.
Indigenous youth
awakening.
Indigenous roots
awakening.
Indigenous youth
awakening.
Awakening.
Tell the kids, tell them what's going on. Let them all know that we woke up.
We need them. Generation, ancestors, they gave them with wisdom so ancient.
We need them, cause they are the next generation. Ancestors co-date them with wisdom so ancient. Mother Nature is calling. Stand up, everybody. Mother Nature is calling. Stand up, everybody. Yes, it's a fact. Medicine woman's and medicine man's reincarnated in flesh. Ancestors back, they're coming back. Yes, it's a fact. Medicine woman's and medicine man's reincarnated in flesh. They're coming back. Ancestors back. So quit with the drugs, quit with the buzz, quit with denying. We're viciously dying, they don't give a shit about us, they just keep on lying.
So we keep on riding cause our people dying if we keep on buying all these toxic items. So let your light shine and many souls are rising.
For all who know change must come, keep your faith up, just stay strong. If they keep deceiving us like blood-sucking leeches, we don't really need them. Let's fight for our freedom. Mother Nature, yeah, Mother Nature, she's the realest. Mother Nature, she's the realest. Let's fight for our freedom. Mother Nature, yeah, Mother Nature, she's the realest.
Mother Nature is calling.
Stand up, everybody. Mother Nature is calling. Stand up, everybody. Yes, it's a fact. Medicine woman's and medicine man's reincarnated in flesh. Ancestors back, they're coming back. Yes, it's a fact. Medicine woman's and medicine man's reincarnated in flesh. Ancestors back, they're coming back. Thanks. Thank everybody for listening, watching, and supporting.
And to all the young people, wake up.
Wake up.
It's time to unite.
Follow your signs. Follow the signs. The ancestors are there for us to lead the way.
Wow. That was it. What a journey. I hope you at home had a good journey with us as well. I would like to thank you all for watching on behalf of Pakhuis de Zwijger as well as Arales. Then some practical things. Don't forget to leave maybe also a contribution to Pakhuis de Zwijger, making this possible in these difficult times. And also keep an agenda. Keep an eye on the agenda of Pakhuis. And after this, we will have another meeting. Maybe you can say it briefly.
I think we are all inspired, and I'm sure you are inspired too. So please join us with our Zoom meeting at 8 p.m. This is also a moment to support or to collaborate, to find out ways how to collaborate. Of course, Arles need also support. You can give your endorsements. You can give also your donations. So please Zoom with us at 8 p.m.
Yes. And I hope, that everyone could feel the importance of the topic of Indigenous liberation, that it is our way of life here that is making impossible others to be and live in peace here as well. And I think besides, we have a world to gain ourselves as well, because we deserve better here as well, spiritually, emotionally, to be more in touch with ourselves. We, living in Europe, also deserve that.
Well, that's so nice to say. I think also, like my little son, he says, "Why are you referring to children of the future? I am the now." So I think we should act now, and together, full of butterflies, people who join us. And I hope to see you at 8 p.m.
Thank you.